Have you ever met someone who, when faced with any choice, from the restaurant for dinner to life decisions, responds with a whatever so automatic that it seems almost robotic? While most people debate dishes, destinations, or colors, they simply shrug their shoulders, as if all options are equal. At first glance, it may seem like disinterest or mental laziness. But could it be that behind this chronic whatever there is something deeper than mere indifference? Is it an emotional survival mechanism that we still don't understand? Before you judge, no, they are not necessarily people without opinions or personality. In fact, this whatever may be one of the most complex and revealing answers there is. It's not a lack of preference, it's often an invisible strategy for dealing with a world that overloads them with expectations. Just imagine, if you've been criticized for every choice you made, from the clothes you wore to the course you chose, there comes a time when your brain learns to switch off. If everything is going to generate judgment, then nothing matters. And so whatever is born as a shield. There are also those for whom indifference is a way of avoiding responsibility for their own happiness. Choosing is taking the risk of making mistakes, and making mistakes hurts. So if you never decide anything, you will never be disappointed. It's as if whatever was an emotional immunity contract. If it wasn't my choice, I can't be blamed for the outcome. The problem is that, over time, this attitude turns into a prison. You end up living life on autopilot mode, while others chart their paths, and, worse, you begin to believe that you really have no preferences, that nothing moves you. But is that really it? Another possibility is that these people learned too early that their opinions don't matter. Children who grew up hearing "leave it alone," "don't fill it," "do as I say" often internalize the idea that their choices are irrelevant. The whatever then becomes a legacy of years of silence. If no one ever took what I wanted seriously, why should I? It is a resignation disguised as detachment. And the saddest thing is that, over time, they themselves come to believe that they have no desires, when, in fact, they have just forgotten how to listen to them. But here's the fascinating detail. Behind this seemingly passive whatever there can be hidden a rare emotional maturity. Some people reach a point where they realize that happiness is not in things, but in the ability to flow with them. It's not indifference, it's a form of zen. They understood that fighting over a restaurant or a wall color won't change the course of their lives, and they chose to invest energy in what really matters, the people around them, the moments, the small joys that don't depend on decisions. In this case, whatever is not giving up, it is freedom. Of course, there is a dangerous side to this. When whatever becomes the default for everything, including dreams, relationships, or purposes, it stops being a choice and becomes a surrender. Life can't just be a sequence of anything goes, because, deep down, nothing goes. We all need something that makes us wake up with a hint of anticipation, that gives us a reason to say yes, that, instead of whatever. The challenge is to discover where the line is between serenity and giving up. If you recognized yourself in this text, no, you are not a person without will. You just learned, for one reason or another, that expressing your preferences was risky, tiring, or pointless. But your opinions are still there, just waiting for a safe space to emerge. Maybe start small. Today, choose what you want to eat. Tomorrow, say which film you prefer to watch. Over time, you'll remember that your choices matter not because others will approve of them, but because you deserve a life that is truly yours. And if you live with someone like that, don't give up on them. Sometimes a whatever is just a disguised cry for help. Instead of insisting, but you have to choose, try to create an environment where they feel safe to risk a preference. Ask, what do you think would be cool, instead of what do you want? Sometimes the difference between indifference and decision is just someone willing to listen. At the end of the day, life is about choices, big and small. And while whatever may be a temporary refuge, it will never be a home. Because what really matters is not what you choose, but the fact that you can choose. And that, my friend, is not whatever. That's all. What if I told you that your whatever is actually a treasure map? It's not an exaggeration. Every time you say it doesn't matter, anything goes, or it's up to you, you're leaving clues about what you really want and, more importantly, what you've learned to hide. Because indifference is not born out of nowhere. It is an armor, woven thread by thread with the disappointments you kept in your pocket, the expectations you let fall on the floor, and the times your voice was drowned out by a "it's not that important." Think about it. A child isn't born saying whatever. She screams, cries, demands. She instinctively knows that her preferences matter. But somewhere along the way, someone taught you to silence your desires, perhaps with a "don't be selfish," a "it's not that important," or, worse, a silence that spoke louder than words. And so, without realizing it, you trained your own brain to think that choosing is a burden, not a right. The paradox of indifference. Why is choosing so scary? Science has a name for this: decision avoidance. Studies show that when we feel overwhelmed by options or threatened by the consequences of a choice, the brain triggers an escape mechanism. It's as if, faced with a giant menu, he said, "Better close your eyes and point your finger. That way, if it goes wrong, it's not my fault." But here's the cruel detail: every whatever you say is a small assassination of your autonomy. Because choosing isn't just about what you want today, it's about claiming the right to exist as a being of legitimate desires, mistakes, and preferences. And when you delegate this to others, or to chance, you are unintentionally handing over the reins of your life. What is your whatever trying to tell you? Let's decode. Each time you use this phrase, you might be 1. Afraid of disappointing. What if I choose wrong and others don't like it? Root. Believes that his value depends on the approval of others. 2. Exhausted from fighting. I'm tired of wanting things and not getting them. Root. Emotional exhaustion due to frustrated expectations. 3. Trapped in perfection. If I can't have the ideal, I don't want anything. Root. Fear that your choices will never be enough. 4. Protective of herself. If I don't choose, I can't be blamed. Root. Traumas of unresolved responsibilities. Radical exercise. The next time a whatever comes out of your mouth, stop and ask, what did I really want to say? What am I afraid of losing or gaining with this choice? The Quiet Revolution: How to Take Back Your Choices. It's not about becoming a decisive person overnight. It's about relearning to trust yourself, step by step. Start with this. 1. The 3 seconds of courage method. Before you answer whatever, count to 3 and say the first thing that comes to mind. Even if it's actually, "I would prefer." It doesn't matter if it seems silly or selfish. The goal is to break the autopilot. 2. The worst case scenario rule. Ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if I choose wrong? Is the restaurant not good? You survive. Is the film boring? You learn. Anyone disagree? So what? Most of us. These fears are ghosts from a past that no longer exists. 3. The safe choices game. Start with low-risk decisions. Today, I choose what I'm going to have for breakfast. Tomorrow, I'll decide what music to listen to on the way. This week, I propose a program for the weekend. Small victories build emotional muscles. 4. The mirror tactic. When someone asks your opinion, imagine that they are answering for a friend you love. Would you say whatever to him? Probably not. Treat yourself with the same kindness. For those who love someone who always says whatever. If you live with a person like this, don't pressure them. Her indifference isn't about you, it's about an internal battle you don't see. Instead, offer limited options. Do you prefer pizza or sushi? Instead of what do you want for dinner? Why? Fewer options equals less anxiety. Normalize the error. If we choose a bad movie, we just change it. No drama. Why? It takes the weight off the perfect choice. Celebrate small preferences. I love that you chose this place. It has a cool vibe. Why? Reinforces that your choices have a positive impact. Tell your own insecurities. I was also afraid of making the wrong choice, but once. Why? Creates identification and reduces shame. The truth no one told you. Here's the dirty secret: the world won't fall apart if you choose wrong. In fact, the worst choices often become the best stories. That horrible restaurant. It became a recurring joke. That disastrous haircut. It taught you to value your style. Error is not the opposite of success, it is the price of authorship. And when you finally understand that your choices don't have to be perfect, Just yours, something magical happens. Life stops being a script you follow and becomes a story you write. Your whatever is not an end, it's an invitation. He is telling you, I deserve better than to survive other people's choices. My desires matter, even if they are small. I can take up space. So the next time the word comes up, take a deep breath and replace it with, actually, I'd like to. I prefer. I choose. Because deep down, you are not indifferent. You are someone who has forgotten what it feels like to be allowed to want. And remember, this changes everything. Now tell me, when was the last time you said whatever when, deep down, you had a preference? Share in the comments, and if this text made sense, save it to reread when indecision strikes. Because your choices matter. Always. Until the next reflection. Yellow heart. And this time, you choose whether to click the bell or not. I trust you. What would you do if no one judged you? This question, which seems like something out of a teenage diary, is actually the key to unlocking 90% of the choices you've been putting off. Because the fear is not of error, of failure, or of ridicule, it is of the opinion of others. That little voice that hisses, what will they think, is the true villain of your story, not the failure. And here's the inconvenient truth. People are too busy worrying about what they think of themselves to analyze their choices. That colleague of yours who turned up his nose when you talked about your dream, he was probably more worried about remembering whether he paid his electric bill. The aunt who criticized your outfit, he just projected his own insecurity of not daring. Other people's judgment is, most of the time, a broken mirror reflecting fears that are not yours. But then why do we still paralyze ourselves? Because someday, in some childish version of ourselves, we learned that love and approval were coins in the same purse. If you were good enough, quiet, obedient, boxed in, you would receive affection. If he dared to step out of line, the risk was rejection. And the child's brain, desperate to survive, recorded this as law. To be loved equals to be accepted equals not to bother. Only you. You're not a child anymore. And the world is not a classroom where the teacher hands out golden stars to those who behave. Adult life has no grades. You have choices. And the choices are not right or wrong, they are yours. The haircut that didn't look good. It's the haircut you've wanted to try. The job that everyone thought was risky. It's the bet you made on yourself. Other people's opinions are just that, they're opinions. It's not a verdict. It's not a sentence. It's, at most, a comment on your post, which you can ignore, reply to, or delete. And when you finally internalize this, something extraordinary happens. His quirks become a personality, what they called weird becomes his trademark. Your mistakes become stories, not scars. Your nose becomes space, for what really matters. Because freedom is not the absence of judgment, it is the courage to not let it dictate your steps. But what if I fail? The flaw. This word that we treat like a monster under the bed, but which is actually the instruction manual for life. Have you ever tried to learn to ride a bike by reading a book? Of course. You fell. He scraped his knee. He cried. And then, without realizing it, I was pedaling without hands, the wind in my face, laughing at those falls as if they were jokes from a distant past. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of it. Every it didn't work is a now I know what doesn't work. Every closed door is an arrow pointing in another direction. Life is not a multiple choice test where only one answer is right. It's a labyrinth where all the exits lead somewhere, including the ones that turn around. And if you still think that making mistakes is shameful, ask yourself, who, in history, do you admire for getting everything right the first time? The artists you love, the entrepreneurs you follow, the heroes of your favorite stories, they've all stumbled. Everyone hesitated. Everyone heard this isn't going to work. The difference is that they kept walking. Because deep down, shame is not about falling. It's staying on the floor. Okay, but how do I start? Start small. It's not about dropping everything and moving to Bali tomorrow, unless you want to, of course. It's about regaining authorship of your life in homeopathic doses. 1. Say no without justification once this week. No, thank you, I'm not going to the party. No, I'm tired or I have to wash my hair. Because, Every unapologetic no is a brick in the wall that protects your time and energy. 2. Do something meaningless just because it gives you pleasure. Buy the expensive flower. Watch the film for the third time. Dance alone in the kitchen. Because relearning to allow yourself is the antidote to a life on autopilot. 3. Tell someone about a dream you hide. Not to ask permission, but to train the voice that says I want. Because saved dreams rot. Shared dreams gain wings, or at least a little push. 4. Make mistakes on purpose. Send the message with a typing error. Wear the blouse that doesn't match. Order a dish you've never tried before. Because dedramatizing the error is training resilience. 5. Ask yourself, what would I do if I knew I wouldn't fail? Write down the answer. Now ask, what stops me from trying? Because most barriers are invented by your mind, not imposed by the world. What if it still goes wrong? Going wrong is a hypothesis, not a destiny. And even if it does, you will discover 2 things. 1. The world doesn't stop. People aren't going live to discuss their failure. They're busy with their own lives. 2. You survive. And what's more, you learn. Which is better than any external approval. Life is not about getting things right. It's about authorship. And the best story you can write is the one where, at the end, you look back and think, I chose. Even though I was scared. Even though I was shaking. I chose. Now tell me. What's that little thing you've been putting off for fear of judgment? A haircut? A difficult conversation? A crazy project? Comment here, and if this text bothered you, save it to reread when doubt arises. Because your choices deserve to be yours. Always. Oh, and if you've made it this far, congratulations. This already proves that you're ready for the next step. What will it be, Yellowheart? P.S. Remember, the most important opinion about your life is yours. The rest is just noise. And noise, we turn the volume down, headphone speaker off. What if what you call fear is just life knocking at the door with opportunity in disguise? Think about it. Discomfort is not an enemy. It's the sign that you're about to grow beyond the limits your mind thought were yours. That feeling of I'm not ready isn't a warning to back down, it's an invitation to reinvent yourself. The anatomy of fear, or why you think you're not ready. The human brain is a master at creating elegant excuses to keep us in our comfort zone. See how it works. 1. The what if, toxic. What if I fail? Translation. What if I find out that I'm not as good as I thought I was? What if they judge me? Translation. What if I have to face that not everyone will approve of me? The truth. These questions are not about the future. They are about wounds from the past that you have not yet closed. 2. The a little more syndrome. I'll wait until I feel 100% safe. Spoiler. That day does not exist. Total security is an illusion. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act despite it. 3. The right time myth. Life doesn't warn you, now is the perfect time, it just passes, and one day you look back and think, I could have tried. Cruel fact, most people don't regret what they did, but what they didn't do out of fear. What really happens when you try, even hard? Let's demystify the worst-case scenario your mind invented. Your fear, the reality. I'm going to make it ugly. You will learn more in one failed attempt than in months of theory. They'll laugh at me. People are too busy with their own fears to focus on yours. I'm not good enough. Nobody is born ready. Even the experts started out as amateurs. I'll regret it. Real regret is not knowing what it would have been like if you had tried. Practical example. Imagine you want to launch a project, but you're afraid it won't work. Fear scenario. I'm going to invest time and money, and no one will like it. Realistic scenario. If it works, you gain confidence, resources, and new doors. If it goes wrong, you gain data, experience, and a story to tell, which, by the way, is what connects people the most. In other words, there is no such thing as going wrong. There is learning a different way. The secret no one tells you about courage. Courage is not a gift, it is a muscle. And like any muscle, it hurts when you start using it, but it gets stronger with each repetition. First time you do something scary, your brain screams danger and your body shakes. Second time, the scream subsides. You still feel scared, but you already know that you will survive. 10th time, fear turns to excitement. You realize that discomfort is the price of evolution. Key question. If you knew that 5 years from now, everything you fear today would just be a funny memory, what would you do differently today? Your fear has a name, and you can master it. Every fear hides an unmet need. Identify yours. Type of fear, what he really says, how to overcome it. -A. Fear of failing, I link my worth to results. Separate I from my actions. You are not your mistakes. Fear of judgment. I need everyone to approve of me. Focus on the 3% that matters, the rest is noise. Fear of not being enough, I don't think I deserve it. List 3 things you have overcome, you are stronger than you think. Fear of change, the known, even bad, is safer. Ask, what do I gain by staying where I am? Quick exercise. Write right now. 1. One thing you are putting off out of fear. 2. Worst case scenario, be honest. 3. How would you survive this scenario? You always find a way. Spoiler, when you put fear on paper, it loses 90% of its power. The truth that will set you free. Here's the secret that changes everything. The world is not expecting you to be perfect. He is expecting you to be authentic. People don't connect with those who always get it right. They connect with those who dare, fall, and get up. The projects that inspire most are not the impeccable ones, but the human ones, those that bear the marks of attempt. Life does not reward those who wait for the right time. It rewards those who create at the right time. Final, and most important, question. 10 years from now, will you remember the criticism you were afraid to receive, or the courage you were afraid to use? Your next step, yes, now. Do not close this screen without doing at least one of these things. 1. Comment below. I'm going to action you're putting off until date. Who else is in this challenge? X. I'm going to launch my Instagram profile by Friday. Who else is starting now? 2. Save this text and read it whenever fear appears. The brain needs reminders to overcome old patterns. 3. Do the 5-second rule. When doubt arises, count 5-4-3-2-1 and act before fear stops you. It works because it takes the rational brain 5 seconds to come up with an excuse. Remember, the difference between those who achieve and those who dream is not the lack of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of him. P.S. If you've made it this far, it's because some part of you already knows you're ready. Fear is just an annoying passenger in the back seat. You are the one driving the car. Automobile symbol. PPS. Life is short for what IFS. Start before you are ready. The ready is a lie we tell ourselves.